Hi everyone, welcome to my YouTube channel. Today I'm going to show you how to create this particular beautiful dashboard. If your aim is to learn how to create beautiful and some kind of clean report or dashboard in both Excel and Power BI, this is your go-to channel. So I'm going to tell you welcome. Okay, so we're going to learn how to create this, but before we actually start to create this from the scratch, we might need to know exactly what are the problems we are trying to solve using the data that we have. That is exactly how we learn on this channel. Okay, before we go on, this particular report is about crime analysis. As you can see, we have dangerous crime time here that we expect people not to actually go out on this time because they don't want to actually fall a victim of any of those crimes available. So if I click on here now, you can see different crimes we have here that we can actually drill down to and look at it. So let's look at this particular vehicle crime here. And if I actually, go ahead and filter my report by this, now you can see the crime is high on what? Is high on Friday, Wednesday, and on Monday. So using this particular kind of chart helps us a lot to actually tell the story the way it should be. Okay, you can see this particular year-over-year change right here. So there is an increase in 2022, and over here we have decrease. And you can see the month increase and decrease right here. The red shows decrease of crime in that particular month, and the green color shows the increase of crime. So first of all, before we delve into the creation, let us look at the problems we really need to solve. You can go ahead and pause this and read through this for you to understand exactly what we are about to get into. All right, with the tags you have just seen, we're going to use that to actually guide ourselves through on how to create this particular report you have on your screen. Okay, those are the couple of colors we're going to be using to make our report to look very beautiful. And we're going to use PowerPoint to create this and actually take it to Power BI and create something very, very much beautiful. So if you're interested in learning and you have not subscribed to my YouTube channel before, this is your best time to do so. And if you're a returning subscriber, I'm going to tell you welcome and let's learn together. Quickly, let's get to our data. I'm going to click over to import from Excel to go get my data. Then I'll navigate to where I have my data writing, YouTube posts, and here I have crime dashboard. So I have this particular one which says other data. I'm going to open. As you can see, we have lots of tables here. So the only one I'm going to work with is actually the crime type. So I'm going to get this one. So in the future, we're going to be using all other data or tables we have here. But for now, let's go with this one. And we're going to grab one more table again from a different file. So click on transform. All right, here we are. Quickly, before we do any other thing, let's quickly go back to home and click on this particular new source and click on Excel workbook. Then we grab the crime data itself. So I'm going to click on open. It's just a single table. So click on the data and just click on OK here. So that will actually move it to Power Query environment for us. Now we have this particular data here. So the very first thing I'm going to do is to actually turn on my view and go to column quality, just to see the qualities of my columns. All we are actually expecting to see is actually 100% on the valid area right here. That is only if we are expecting the column to be 100%. So the 100% on this one right now affects it. It doesn't give us something very meaningful. As you can see, if I open it up right here, is given null, so which means this column has nothing very important. So we can just go ahead and remove it. To do that, right click and you're gonna see remove. You just click on remove. So we have actually taken the column off. You get it? If I move this way again now, you can see we have this particular one here, which is actually giving us time. So what are we gonna do to this? We need to actually get this time in a time format, and this time now is mixed up with date. But what happens if we try to turn this into a date and time here? We have, some couple of errors. What do we do to this? Okay, fine. It's very simple. I'm going to remove this step. So under this particular part here, is where you can actually come back to the steps you've actually applied and make any changes if need be to it. So right now I don't want this one. I'm going to remove it. So I use the X. I removed it. So what I'm going to do now is to actually come here. I want to show you something. Go to move and move to the end. So moving into the end right now, you can see we have the same date here, but different format. That was why when we actually turn this into either a date or date and time, we're going to have some kind of errors, right? So what do we do to this now? We don't need this particular date we have here. All we need is the time. To get the time from here now, what we need to do is to go to the add column. So when you get to add column, we're going to extract the time. So what do we do? I think that shouldn't be the way to go. Let's go to home, and from home we locate where we have split column. On that split column, we're going to use by delimiter. So you need to look at what delimiter you want to use to extract this. Let me move it a little bit. So now with this now, we have a space delimiter. Our space delimiter is between this date and time here. So we have other delimiter like the dot or the full stop delimiter. So we have this delimiter as well. So we're going to use the space delimiter to actually get what we want extracted. So I'm going to come over here and choose space. So when I choose space, leave it at each occurrence here. It's fine. Maybe you want to specify at the left or the right hand corner. It depends on what you want. I'm going to click on OK. So can you see that now? We have our time. So our time now is with AM and PM. So for that, we don't need this. This ought to have been date, right? So we have the date column here. So this is actually not going to be useful to us again. So we have removed that. The next thing I might want to remove from here now is actually getting my AM and my PM. So what I'm going to do right now to get the AM and PM, in my previous video, somebody says, I don't know how to do that. And I did it in the video. I don't know why you couldn't do it. So what I'm going to do right now is to actually go to add column. You see extract here, click on extract. And you must make sure that you have consistency of what you want to remove with 2 letters, 3, 4, or whatever it is. So I'm going to actually choose the last characters. So the last characters is either AM or PM. So consistently is 2. I'm going to put 2 over here. Then I extract. So I have my AM and PM right here right now. On this particular one here, I'm going to name it crime time. So crime time. Oh, sorry, that is a mistake. All right. Okay. For the AM and PM, we can name it the moment, like moment. Okay, fine. This is beautiful. So make sure you have everything on the right data types, right? So if you look at it now, everything looks fine, looks very good and okay. So this is what we want to actually use. All right, the next thing we do now is just check for our crime type here and make sure we have it on the right. Okay, that is cool. So we are good to go. So we can now close and apply. This is going to take it up to Power BI desktop. All right, here we are at the Power BI desktop. The next thing we're going to look at is actually check the relationship if we have it rightly the way it should be. I'm going to click over here to the model view and okay, now we have it. So crime, and we have the data here. So we can move it anywhere. Let me have it right here right now. Okay. All right, the first thing we want to build now is for we to build this right here. I'm talking about building something like this. So if you can see here, what we have is trying to look at the difference between this particular one and this one. So it's actually the crime went down by 205. That is crazy. So we can decide to show it on percentage, just like the way I have done right on the month area here. Is your choice. I'm just trying to give you 2 options, percentage or numbers, whatever, whichever one you want. But how do we actually build this? Before we build this, we need one thing, and that is going to be our date table, right? let's go ahead and build it. All right, click on this particular table view and let's go to new table here. We're going to add a new table. We don't need to build a very complex date table. It's just some kind of simple, DAX to be used here. So I'm going to call this one date table. For my date table, I have add column. So I'm going to have calendar auto again, right? So add column and calendar auto. So this calendar auto is going to actually help me to locate where I have my date column right in all the tables I have. Like if I have 100 tables, it's going to actually go ahead and extract. But it's going to be difficult when you have different date columns in different tables. It's going to be crazy. So in my previous video, I've shown you how to actually point it to the actual table you want to actually get something for you. So right here, I'm going to put my comma here. And now what do I need? I want to extract the year. So to do that, we come over here, we type year. So now, comma, we use the year function. So for the year function, we use the date. So this date is actually the date. I'm going to show you where the date is coming from. So we can go ahead and close this, go down and close our add columns. Then if I hit my enter key right now, we should be expecting 2 columns. Beautiful. So we have these 2 columns. If you look at these 2 columns we have right here, I don't know what actually this one is. Let's find out. We are having 1904. Where is this 1904 coming from? Let's go ahead and verify. I'm going to open up this particular part here. And if I click on my data, my data has, let's verify the minimum and the maximum. So if I scroll down now, you can see my data is actually 3 years of data from 2001 to 2021 and 23. So where am I now seeing this huge, chunk of dates from? That's crazy. That's exactly what I'm saying. So let us verify on crime type here. Nothing like that here. But if I come over here, I see this. How do we actually control it? Right? How do we control it? So maybe it's actually sensing that we have a date column where we have this one removed from. That is where we extracted this particular time from. And it's still like, okay, I knew that you have something here. What do we do to save ourselves from that chunk of date? So we go to the date table here. Let's do something like this. So at the part of the above here, we're going to use a variable. So this variable is going to be called mean date. So for the mean date, I'm going to store here the mean date and I'm going to call it column I want to extract the mean date from. That will save us from getting 1904. Then we just need to actually get 3 years of data. So in case you don't get what I'm talking about right now, let me actually show you what it is. I'm going to just cancel it now. Open up here. Can you see now? We have lots of date. A lot of date. So we want to control how much years we have in this particular part. To control that, I've shown you previously in my other classes, but I'm going to show you again. So we just type here a variable. Inside this variable, we call it mean date equals. For the mean date, we're going to have to bring year. Then we have to actually use the mean function. So the main function is going to go into our data and go to crime dates. So crime date is a column in data table, right? So all we have to do is to close our year and then our mean. After this, we actually create the second one, the second variable will actually extract the max date, then equals. We type in the year and we are going to get the max. Then we need the crime date. So after getting all of this right now, the next thing we have to do is to use this particular variable above here to actually filter our calendar or our date table. So we want to use it to filter this particular column, but we're not going to reference this very column here. Instead, this is the column we're going to reference. Whatever happens to this particular column right now affects any subsequent columns we're going to be adding, right? So let's find out. Okay, where do we do that? I'm going to come down here, and the next thing is to return. So when I return, I'll go after my add columns. I'll actually use the filter function. So I'll wrap the filter function around the calendar auto here. So beneath the calendar auto, what I'm going to do, I'm going to type in the year function here. So I'm going to say, go into the crime date and find the year. So when I actually bring in the year, I have to bring in the date. So this date here, the date I have here right now is this particular date we have over here, this very one. So this is the date. I'm going to say, go into this column. When you go into this column, use this particular column coming from this table, crime date, and only make it to match the years we have there, instead of us having this multiple years. You get it now? Let's find out. So I'm going to actually have, have this one closed. So with this one closed now, what I'm going to do next is to actually say where it is actually greater than or equals to what? To the mean. That is underscore mean date. And so let's step down again. Where the year, the date, we close is less than or equals to what? Now to the max. So max date. So we have to close for our filter here. And now we need to actually apply a comma to actually get everything ready. Let us hit the enter key and look at the behavior of this. Can you see that now? Beautiful. So let us take a look at it in detail. So if you look at it now, it has been filtered down to 3 years of data, 2021 to 2023. This is what we are expecting to see. So right now, if we come over here, this is actually in some kind of date and time. So we hate this. We don't want to do this, right? So let's come here to data type and change to date. Okay. Oh, I don't like this view as well. So format, we change it to a short date type. Beautiful. We have this. I told you we don't need to do much right here. I'm just going to actually extract one single column. We call it a wrap over here. So I'm going to add a new comma. So now I'm going to extract my month. And if I do that now, have my comma here. So instead of me to use the month function, I would rather use the format function because I want to actually see my month, not in number, but in text. So using the format function is going to ask you for value. The value is our date column. You still remember that date? Then I'm going to place my comma right here. What format do I want? So inside the double quotes, I'll type MM3. That's going to give me the short format of the kind of date, month I'm looking for the scene. Then I go ahead and close this. And if I hit my enter key right now, I should have my month. Oh no, something is wrong. Yeah, that is silly. So just come here and close this. Then hit the enter key. Right now, we should have everything solved. Still battling with this. What is wrong? Let us look at that. Month. We should have formats. Okay, let's wait. Okay, now when you make any mistake, to close either a quote or some kind of a bracket, whatever it is, so the system automatically helps you to close it, but does that in the wrong direction. So look at what happens here. The system automatically closed using those two for us. So we don't want them. We have to remove them before we have what we want correctly. So if I hit my enter key right now, we should be clear. Now I told you. Okay. Now, to those of you who are just getting into Power BI for the first time, I wouldn't do things that you don't understand. You'll be like asking yourself questions. You don't see who to answer your questions. So let's come over here now and use the date table and see why we're going to be doing the next step we're going to be using, right? If I come over here to date table and I come to date here, I bring in my date. So this is what I have. So this is some kind of default date that Power BI would generate for us. So Power BI will go ahead and like, okay, you know what? You have year, you have quarter, you have month, and you have date. So we don't want this. We want this to be in something like January 1st, 2024 or 25, whatever it is. So we don't want it to actually be in this particular format. So how do we actually make this happen? So we need to tell Power BI that, you know what? We have our own date table. So we want to mark our territory. Let's go back. So you're back right here. Okay, let me collapse this for you to see it better. So when you click on your date anywhere, any of the columns, go to table 2. And now let's click on mark as date table. Don't forget, please watch. Look at what we have here. We'll make a change and let's look at what it's going to look like. Mark as date table. So click over here. You must see date. If you don't see date, that means something is wrong. So validated successfully. Click on OK. All right. So let's get back. Can you see what I'm talking about? It has changed. That is one of it. Fine. Let's some kind of remove this and bring in what? Bring in our month. Here we have the month. So the month now starts from April and it ends in September. How do we fix this? It's very simple. We need to actually get that done. I know most of you could do this, but to those who cannot, let's fix it. So we open this place up. We add one more column to support that. On this column, we type in months, num for month number. So we close, we do comma. So instead of using format, we're going to use the month function. So with the month function, we call the date column. We just close. That is all we need to do. So once we have done this, we're going to see in some numbers, right? So those numbers are some kind of attributed to every single month. So 1 for January, 12 for December. So click on this particular month here, highlight it, and go over to, I think it's going to be column tools. Then you see over here where we have the sort by column. You click on it and you sort by month number. So getting back right now is going to be from January down to December. Let's find out. Wow, solved. So what is left before we start proceeding on the creation of our report? Well, let's go to the relationship area and make sure we have the right relationship. So I'm going to close all of this and collapse this. So now we don't have it. I'm going to move and move this here. So now we have the crime date. I drag the crime date to the date. So we have established connection between the two tables and it's giving us many-to-one relationship. That is beautiful. So let's now get back to our main view here. So what is the first thing we need to do? Beautiful. Okay, let's see. We want to create and see how many crimes record we have. So I always love to organize my measures inside a table. So I don't need this. I'm going to remove it now. So instead of me doing it the other way around, let's go over and create a table. So if I go to modeling, I'm going to see new table here. I click on new table. I don't have to be on the table view to get it done because all I'm just going to do is to create a box where I can actually store all my measures right in. So call this anything you like. You can call it calculations. So equals the square bracket. Inside the square bracket, you can just have 1 as a number. If you want to have something like a text inside it, you have to put it inside double quotes because Power BI does not understand that. But Power BI does understand what number is. So I close this and I hit my enter key. So now we should have a table. I think we have to place in double quotes. Is that what you're saying? Okay, let's do double quotes here. Let's see the enter key. So what is wrong? Oh no, I think this is not this. This is not what we want. We want a curly bracket like this. I'm going to place 1 in it. This as well. And I hit my enter key. Sorry for my wrong, DAX function. Okay, whatever, it works. Now, if we go to this part here, we have it. We call it disconnected table. It has no connection to any of the tables we're going to have here, or we have here already. So let's get back now. Inside here, I right click, I can create a new measure. So with the new measure I've just created now, I'm going to call it total crime. total crimes. So for total crimes, you know what it is already. We just do the count rows of our crime table, which is our data table. So I should have renamed that. So let me call it count rows and data. This is confusing, right? I'm going to rename that table to crimes table or whatever. Double click on it and just name it to crime data. So don't worry about the function you have already written. It's going to be updated automatically. If you think it's a damn lie, let's go ahead and take a look at it. If I open it up right now, updated, can you see crimes data? So quickly, before we do any other thing, let's use the comma separator here because it's number. All right, we have our first measure written. I'm going to have to bring it down to here. So we have 2,500 crimes recorded. Right. So what next do we do? We need to create a chart. First of all, I'm going to bring in this one here as a table. So I'm going to bring in my total crime. But before then, let's go to the date table and bring in the year. So we have the 3 years of data. So we have it splitted into the years. So I'm going to create a chart, and the chart I'm going to create right now was supposed to be this one, but because of how we want our chart to read our values, we're not going to use that. So instead, we're going to use this particular stacked column chart here. So on the stacked column chart, we just have one, should I call it measure? So nothing happens. We're going to have something like this. So where do we go from here? So this is where the whole thing gets some kind of tough and all of that. So pay a very close attention for you to see how everything goes. It's very simple and easy. Can you see it once again? Between 2021 and 2022, we have increase of 745 crime. Between 2022 and 2023 here, we have a decrease, not an increase right now. You can see we have an arrow down. Beautiful, right? So which shows that the crime went down by 205. So if you could actually analyze it on a percentage, is all your choice. So let's create a new measure. This measure, we're going to call it crime previous here. Crime previous year. So all we just need to do is to change the filter context using the calculate function. So we bring in our measure total crimes, and we can use date add, or we use same period last year. And we bring in our dates column from what? From date. So here is it. From a date table that we created, we close, and finally we close our calculate function. So the functionality of this particular same period last year is to actually offset by 1 minus 1. So it's still the same thing if you use the date add function. So we have what we call dates add. So the date add function, you can do -1, -2, -3, 4, and 5. The difference between the date add and the same period last year is that this one only offset by 1. So you can actually have control over how much or how many months, years, or quarters you want to go back when you use the date add. But this one, automatically it offset by 1. So here we go. So let us hit the enter key and look at what we're going to have right here. So the next thing we do now is to look at the behavior of this. I'm going to push this one. Let me push this one a little bit over here. Then let's bring in the year. Then bring in total crime and the last year. So we change this one to what? We change it to a table. So can you see what we have here right now? So this is what we have. So the next thing we're going to look at is actually looking at the difference. The difference is what we are going to be looking at here. So we can call the difference year-over-year change. But instead of we creating lots of measures, that is why we have variables. Why don't we combine everything inside a single variable? Although it's going to be some kind of a huge work, you know, so all you have to do is to pay attention, right? Let's bring it down. We can see what we are doing from here when we hit the enter key. So I go to my previous year. So instead of me naming this one previous year, I can just call this one label. Label. So I'm going to use this one to be year. Okay. So let's store this one inside what? Store it inside a variable. So we'll call this variable underscore or previous year. So equals. That stores this, right? So if you want to shift it at the same time, highlight it and your tab key will definitely move it for you, right? So we now create another variable here. So this variable will be underscore year over year change. So equals. So for the year over year change now, what we're going to do is just to actually simply use this total crime. We subtract it from what? From our variable underscore previous year, right? So if I hit my enter key right now, let's see what we're going to have. Oh, sorry for that. So I need to return. So create a return and return our year over year change. So this is what we have for year over year change right now. Let's just see it in detail. So if you look at what we have here, we have different values compared to what we have before when we actually, return this particular part. So this time around with the year over year change, because there is no year before 2021, so it's still returning the same 405. So for this, between 2021 and 2022, we have, 745. It's between 2023 to 2022, we have minus 205 right here. This is beautiful. You get it right now. So we're going to use this to actually create something very meaningful, that like what we have seen previously before we started creating this. So I don't want to return this. I'm going to take it off. So let me push my return over here. So now let's get into the main detail. So the next thing we're going to do right now is to use a function called switch through. So the switch through function, comma. So what we're going to do right now is to actually say, okay, you know what? If this particular underscore here, previous year, these are previous year. If this previous year here is equals to 0, is equals to 0. So we want you to actually return it, right? Return underscore previous year. And we want to concatenate something here, which is going to be inside double quotes. We want to put this, dash in it. I'm going to show you why I'm doing this in a jiffy, but for now, just watch. So comma, shift, enter again, underscore previous year. So if the previous year this time around is greater than or equal to 1, which means it's not 0. So what we want right now, if you look at the previous one we've looked at before we began this particular class, we have up and down arrow. So we want to actually bring this up and down arrow. So what do? Inside double quotes, we want to actually have arrow up. We don't need to go to extra, our website to get that done. So your Windows icon on your keyboard, press it down and this full stop will give you this. So once you have this now, let's go over to here and now we scroll down. So we can now see different We can see different arrows here. So we have this one. If you scroll down, you can see different icons that you can actually use. So we have thin arrows, we have thick arrows. It depends on which one you want. So here's the thin ones here. So I'm going to use the thick one over here. I'm going to use this one. So here we go. So give a space and close this. Then we concatenate and bring in the value for the previous year. So here is our previous year value. So comma, shift, enter. Underscore previous year here is actually now less than 1. So if this is less than 1, which means it's going to be minus, right? So what we're going to do, we have to say, okay, if that is the case, we want to get the down arrow. So now we bring in the down arrow your Windows key and your full stop here gets you back to this place, and you scroll down and you locate the downward arrow, this one here. So nicely we have it. Space, close, and concatenate this to it. Okay, we are done. Then Shift Enter. Let's close this and take a look at what this would look like. Okay. So if you look at this now, we now have those arrows here. So what we are looking at here now, let's see. Okay, if you look at it, there is a mistake here. We have the two arrows going up, so we are returning something weird. So we are not supposed to return the previous, our year. Instead, we are supposed to return our year-over-year change. So what do? How can we make this? So all I'm going to do right now is to get this one changed to underscore year-over-year change, and manually change this one. All right, we've changed all of them. So let's go to the value now, and now we can take a look at what we have here. So if you look at this one, we don't want to show this particular number here, this 405. So we want to make it 0. So how do we go about that? Let's come over here. So I'm going to place my cursor here now, and let's copy. I'm going to copy it. So we use the if condition. If. So if this value here is blank, so it's blank. So if this value is not blank. Okay, let's say it's not blank. So it's not blank. Then go ahead and give us this. Otherwise, give us just 0. And we close and hit our enter key. Let's go and verify if this one does the work for us. So that doesn't work. What we're going to do right now is just to do something different. So let me just Ctrl-Z to take it back to the original version of it. So this is how it were before. So what we're going to do right now is our previous year we need to change. So we're going to do if underscore previous year is not blank. So if it is not blank, so we're going to go ahead and run this particular line of code. Otherwise, if it is blank, we want to see 0. Give us 0. Then we close our if here. So this one now should work absolutely fine. Let's take a look at it. So now, can you see it now? We now have 0 here. So what we want is not actually 0. We want to see blank. So we don't want to display 0 here. Let's go over here again. So instead of us putting 0 here, we just tell it to give us blank. So if we hit our enter key, all we are looking forward to seeing there is just a dash. So let's get back again. Can you see it now? We now have that dash. So you can see we have both up and down arrow here right now, which is beautiful. So it's time for we to use it over here. But how do we go about it? So let's go ahead and move this one away and now bring this one to focus. This is our main focus point now. So remember, we are using this particular chart here, which is tagged column chart. It's very important. In case you don't do it right, you're going to have a lot of problems getting it right. Okay. Now we have this. We want to create extra measure before we go ahead and do anything. So this measure, we're going to call it blank measure. Okay. So we call this blank measure. So because I'm going to have two of it, I'm going to put year to differentiate this one. So I'm going to store just 200 here. So later, after all, we're going to make it dynamic, and I'm going to show you why we are making it dynamic. But for now, it's going to work exactly how we want it. Okay, with this one created right now, what I'm going to do is to push in this blank measure inside here, right? So we want to push it inside our y-axis. Go to blank measure, push it in. So we've pushed in our blank measure, but something weird happened. This particular blank measure is above. We want it to be below. So what do? We take this one and we push it to the top. Now, we now have our blank measure with this particular blue color, right? That is beautiful. So what we are looking forward to saying is not this particular color here. Instead, we want to see this particular value. We're about to trick the system to get that done for us. Let's go over to this particular format. Then from format, we go to the data label. We turn data label on. So you can now see we have 200 everywhere, right? That was the number we dynamically, we just defaultly created, right? On our own. So let's open it up over here. Scroll down. So make sure you click on this and select your blank measure, this one that has the ear. Go down until you see value. Open the value up and scroll down a bit. You see custom label. Turn it on. So once you turn the custom label on, that blank measure value that is 200 disappeared. So we can now locate where we have our label with ear right in and push it in here. Click over this, then click here and this. Can you see it now? This is how I brought this here. Beautiful. We have something like this here right now. I told you we are not actually interested in looking at the colors, but just the number. Here we have the dash because there is no changes here. So the next thing we are going to do right now is to look at how we can actually change the color of our up and down arrow with their values. All right, what we need to do now is to go back here. We don't have to write the next measure from the scratch. All we just have to do is to make like 4 changes, if I'm not mistaken. Maybe 4 changes, yeah. Okay, let's go over to our label and we do copy. So we create a new measure, we paste it in and we just make changes. So I'm pasting this one here. So scroll all the way up and leave the year the way it is. Just type in CF for conditional formatting. So conditional formatting for year. And now we go down, 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 we're here. So for all of this here, they are not actually important. We move this off. We come over here, we move this off. We come over here, we move this off. Then they're gone. So what we're going to do right now is that if it is equal to 0, that means it's blank. Because blank and 0 is actually the same thing. What we want is to give it the color, and the color should be gray. Then, if it is actually greater than or equals, comma here, what we want right now is to give it the green color. That depicts high, comma again. Then, if this is less than 1, which means it's on minus, so we want to give it the red color where we have a decline. Right? And that is all we need to do. So we have this. I told you we just need to make 4 changes, and that is it 1, 2, 3, and the measure name that we changed. So we are done. We don't need to do any of that thing again. All right, with this one now, we have to make sure we bring this to view. We can now see this. This is what we're going to make change to. Remember, you have this one named CF for conditional formatting. So we click over here again. We scroll all the way down to where we have the value right in. We are on the value area here, and the value needs to have its color change. Ordinarily, if I change this to this red color, can you see it now? This is what I have. But I want to make it dynamic. I don't have to change it, manually to a particular color over here. That is not what it is. I click on this particular FX. Then I go over here. I go to field value. Then I choose what? I choose my conditional formatting. I click on OK. Now, can you see it now? So something weird happened. We can't really see it the way it is. What do we need to do? We need to turn off the color for this one, right? So what do? We scroll back to where we have column, and this is the color. So all we just have to do is to make it white. That matches our background. Whatever background you're using is what you're going to be using as a color. So now you can now see this appeared so well. This is how we got this created. So it is time for me to actually quickly, touch this and take off what is not important. Title is gone and the value is gone. Then we go to the X. For the X, we want to take off the title. Then for the value, we open it up and we just bold it to show very well. Beautiful, huh? This is all you need to do. That is beautiful. So do you look at this now? So I believe you can create this anytime, any day. It's very, very simple. Very simple. You can create it. You can increase the size if you want to show it to be some kind of more large than this. It's your choice. But now we're showing changes. So which means now between 2021 to 2022, we have increase of 745 crimes. And between 2022 to 2023 here, we have decrease of 205. So which is good. We don't want crimes. So now we can now bring this over here. Just keep it here for the time being. So what else? Let's create for the month. For the month? Yes, for the month. So on the month, we click on the line chart here. So we always know time series. I'm going to drag it all over here. And the next thing I do is to go over here and bring in our month. Then quickly, I bring in my total crimes for every single month. I have this trend. So when I have this trend, all I want to show is to show something exactly like this. But this time around, we are not looking at showing it as numbers. We're looking forward to showing this as a percentage. How do we do that? All right, very simple. What do we first of all do? We just have to create the same kind of chart. Sorry, I did create it somewhere wrongly. So I'm going to click on this one and I click over here. I have the same chart created, stacked column chart. Okay, with this chart created, we want to create a blank, measure. So I can just duplicate this one to be lazy. New measure. I paste this one over here and I type in here month. So I hit my enter key. Then quickly, I bring this one to the y-axis. I have to move it above. So here is our consistent blank measure. So it's actually giving us 200. So let's quickly understand everything we're going to do before we bring it to this particular part here. So I'm going to stretch this here. And right now we move off this particular label away from here. So for this one, we change it to month. So we go to month. So we have it as month. The next thing I'm going to do right now is to actually create a particular measure here. And I'm going to name that measure crime previous month. So I'm going to new measure. So let us name it crime previous month. So over here, we're going to use the calculate function to change the filter context. So we go with total crimes. So comma. So I told you when we do same period last year, it goes offset by a year. But right now we're looking forward to month, right? So what do we need to do? We use a function called dates add. So the date add is just like your same period last year. It's looking for what? It's looking for date. So we go for the date table and push in date column. And right now we have a comma here. So what I want you to do for me is just pay very huge attention to this particular intelligence right here to know what you need to provide for a particular DAX function to work. So right now we have given it the date. So we need to actually give it the interval. The interval is the offset we want to actually go by. So offset could be -1, -2, -3, -4. It could be in months, in days, it could be in year and in quarter. So we cannot offset by week. So if you have to do that, maybe you have to customize how that looks. So you have to be very extensive in writing DAX. Okay, with my comma now, I want to do -1. And it's going to ask me, how do I want to go backward? Okay, let's do month. All right, we have this. We close, shift, enter, we close this. And if I hit my enter key, we're going to have the crime last month. I can push this one now into this. So let us look at that. Can you see it now? So if you look at here, this has given us exactly what it is that we're looking for. So over here now, can you see? This is giving you the previous one. So it returns for you the same thing we have over in January, because there is no what? There is no month before this particular, month of January here. So it's returning that. That was what we handled when we actually created this particular chart here. We tried to actually exclude it. You understand? So let's keep working. Now we have this. We want to look at months over month change, right? So we're going to add a new measure, or we can decide to use this one, but let us make it very easy for you to understand. Let us not make it complicated. So I'm going to add a new measure right now. This measure is going to create my label for me, just like what we have done in the other one. So I'll do label, this one for the month. Identify that. Okay, the very first thing I'm going to do right now is that I want to create month over month change, and it's going to be based on percentage, not based on numbers right now. So we create a variable here. So variable underscore months over month change. So I want to make sure I identify it as percentage. So if I go with this, it wouldn't allow me to use a symbol. What I'll do is going to be PCT for percentage. I can even put underscore here to do that. So over here, what we're going to do right now is to actually use the divide function. Divide. So what am I dividing? I'm dividing the total crimes. So here I have a total crimes, and total crime is actually the overall crimes, right? This one here. So I'm going to subtract for my numerator here. I'm going to subtract it from our month's previous month. Crime previous month here. So the denominator is going to be the same thing. Crime previous month. And this gives us percentage. So you might want to try to look at this and see what it will return before we proceed into doing this further. So I will do return. So my return returns this particular one for me, and I hit my enter key. Quickly, I convert it into a percentage. So let's do this. Now let's push it inside our table. Take a look at it. Now we have the percentage change here. So you can see the percentage change is giving us, at some aspect, we are having 0%, 0.00%. That was because there is not some kind of month before January, so we don't have changes, right? So we have where it is down. The crime went down in February, and the crime went up again in March, and down in April, up in May, and all of that Beautiful. So we have this. The next thing we have to do right now is that we don't want this. We want to have an arrow up and down to identify those particular percentages we have right here. How do we put up and down arrow over this? Let's do it. Okay, now let's get back to this. Here we are. Let's move this off first. I'm going to type in that variable. So this variable will store in a percentage. So the percentage this variable is going to store is going to be called negative PCT. So negative percentage. I'm going to put equals and do minus 0.01. So that's the negative percentage we're going to set this at, minus 0.01. But before I use this, I'm not going to use this immediately. Before I decide to use this, I want you to see something first. What will happen if we decide not to use this? What is going to happen, or what is likely to happen? Then I can now return this now. Under the return over here, so we're going to do the same thing we have done previously in the previous one. So we create a switch function that switches through some couple of variables. So the switch function now is going to actually look at the percentage of month change, month over month change. So underscore month over month change. So if it is actually equals to 0, so I'm going to put a space here to make it look clean. If it is equals to 0, then we want to have 0, right? Do you want to have 0? And that 0, we want to concatenate the percentage as part of it. Do you get that now? Then what we do now is underscore. Before we do that, we need to put a comma here, then underscore now for if it's true. If what we want is true, we want to bring in this particular percentage change over here. You get it now. So we want to concatenate a dash to it. So inside here, I use my ampersand and the dash. So we are going to that. We're going to go with that. I'm going to put my comma, shift, enter, underscore, percentage month over month change. So this time around, if it is actually greater than or equals to maybe, let's say 1%, for example. So what are we going to do? We want to return the percentage, which is this one here. But right now, it's not formatted as a percentage yet. We have to format it. But I'm going to let you see what the result would be before we decide to do any of this. Right? Then shift, enter again. Let's do comma, shift, enter. So underscore now, percentage here is now less than 1. So we do. So let's find out what this is going to look like. So we have something like this, which means we have an error somewhere. Let's find out what the error is going to be like. Where is this error coming from? Okay, our error is from here. The problem of the error now is actually from here. So we just have to remove the 0. So we are given two different things. So now we hit the enter key. That is all. We should have it solved by now. I'm sorry for that. So let's go back and take a look at what we have. So this is what we have here right now. So we can now see it as a percentage, not more as value the way it is right now. So because this one is actually, no, there is no change here, it's giving us 0. So we want to see dash here instead of we having this 0. What do we do? And remember, we have no arrows yet. What do we do to bring that in? So this is fine. This is beautiful because it's some kind of still formatted as value. But by the time we bring in those icons, up and down arrow, there'll be problems, right? So let's go over to our label for the month. And right now we need to bring in what? We need to bring in the arrow, and the arrow is going to be coming over here. So we want to add the arrow over here. So what we're going to do right now is to put in here, two double quotation, and inside it, the windows, full stop. So we go for the arrow. That gives us the up arrow. Scroll down. We use this upward arrow. So we step out, give a space, we close this, and we concatenate this one to it. You get it? So you come over here now. After the condition here, we type double quotes, your windows, full stop, or the dots on your keyboard, downward arrow, that is this. We remove and we close this. So if I now go ahead and hit my enter key, so this is not going to be more formatted as percentage because we have added something that looks like a text now to it. Let's find out. Can you see? This is what we have now. We're now having trouble reading this nicely. So what do we do? And it's not really, it's some kind of weird. How do we solve all of this? The first thing we're going to do to solve this now is some kind of going back. And now we're about to use this. So over here, where I have greater than equals 1, I'm going to have over there underscore negative percentage. Over here, I'm going to have underscore the same negative percentage. So let's take a look at it. This time around, we should have the up and down arrow to be right. So you can now see we have some of the arrow going up and we have some of the arrow coming down. In case you're not looking at it very detailed, look at it. Here we have some of the arrow going up and down. Before we added that particular variable, the arrows were not pointing at the right direction, but right now we have just fixed it with this. But what is left is how can we convert this to a percentage? Very simple. Let's get it. So we have to wrap up this particular percentage here with what? With format function. With the format function, we go over to the end of that particular variable. We put a comma. Inside of a quotation, we tell it how we want to format this. You can format this with 0.0%, right? Then you close. So make sure you put it inside of quotes, both of them, then you close. So we do the same thing to this particular one over here. So we do what? We do format. So we format comma inside of quotes 0.0 and we put in a percentage. Then we do this, we close. Let us hit our enter key and look at what is going on right now. So do you look at that now? This is beautiful. It has worked so well. What if you don't want it in decimal places? What do you do to remove it? You don't want to see minus 6.4, just like what we have here right now, 19.4. You don't want to see it. So you go back here and take off zeros. So you come here, do the same thing to this one. So hit your enter key. Then let's come here. Can you see it now? We have this. Okay, on this one, we want the 0 to disappear. We don't want to keep the 0. What do we do to remove the 0 from here and just have the dash? Let's get back over to the month label And this time around, all I'm going to do is do some kind of copy all of this. Ctrl C to copy. So after I've copied, I'll go above it, Shift, Enter. I'll use the if condition here. I'm going to say if this one here is not blank. If it is not blank, then go ahead and give us this. The one I copy, I paste it down. So what will the system do? Let's find out. Don't worry about the errors we have, we'll fix it. So let me show you what it is. So the system is going to like, okay, you have just used the if condition here. So I'm going to check if this particular part here, when I run it and is not actually blank, there are some values inside it. So I'm going to run it. So it's checking. This one here creates check. So after checking this and it's not blank, it's going to go ahead and run it. We now have it back here. So this particular part here is what is asking the question that is this particular measure that has this divide here blank? If it is not blank, then we copy it and paste it again and like, okay, go ahead and run all of this for us. Otherwise, if it is blank, we give what? We give a comma here, shift down, just go ahead and return blank. So we close what? We close our if. It might look a lot, but with this now, it makes it easy. Remember, we use the blank twice. The first blank checks if this particular part of our measure or our code is not blank. If it is not blank, the same code we copied it and pasted it over here, then go ahead and run it. Otherwise, if it is blank, return blank. We don't want to see 0 or any number at all. So let's find out. If I hit my enter key right now, it should actually remove that 0 we have for us. So we go back here. Can you see it now? We have blank, we are having dash right now because that is what we want to show. That is exactly what we have actually specified when we wrote this. Can you see it now? If it is equal to 0, remember anything blank where we are supposed to have number defaults automatically to 0. That was why we use 0 here. So we want to see blank. So this one now returns blank or 0, and we are using dash to show it. So I'm going to quickly go ahead and copy. So when I copy this, I go over here and I create a new measure. What is that are we trying to do? We are trying to create the conditional formatting. So I paste it over here and I quickly go back up. So what do we name this? CF for conditional formatting. Let's scroll down now. As we scroll down here, we're going to go ahead and remove all of this. Remove this. Remove this. So Ctrl Z. We're going to remove from here. We remove it. From here, we remove it. So what will this place give to us? This place is going to give to us gray. So comma. This place gives to us green. Then comma. And finally, this one that is negative would give us red. So I hit my enter key. So we are done. Let's get back. Can we actually format this? And let us look at it over here before we even go to our chart. Yes, of course, we can. We can format this over here. What you need to do is to click over here and, over the format, go down and you see where it says cell element. On that cell element, you have to make sure you choose this particular label that you want to some kind of get it. So we're trying to do this formatting for this. And we come over here. Instead of row, we choose field and we'll come over here. Conditional formatting for month. So we click on OK. Do you see that now? We have something like this. So how do we represent this over our line chart? Very important. Okay, it is time to step up from here. We have this over here. We need to do it over here. It's something very easy. It's not difficult at all. So I'm going to go ahead and remove my legend from it. And for the y-axis, the title, the value. For the x, just the title. Then I bold this. Beautiful. Okay, now we scroll down. We look at this. We turn it on. So we now click over here and scroll down a little bit now. What do? We go down to where we have value. We have this value right here. Before we make use of the value, let's go down or go up a little bit and click over here and select the blank. So we have chosen to use the blank right now. So it's giving us 200 all through. We scroll down and we turn on custom label on. Okay, that disappears, which means we want to use our own custom label instead of that. So I'm going to click over here now and choose what? Choose my label for month. That is month label, this one here. So you can now see this place would give us nothing because there is no changes between any other month. So we are seeing the same thing we have here. If I click on this now, I can see all of this. Okay, this is what we have, right? Then the next thing now is to go ahead to our color here. So we can choose the color we want, but we just want to use the conditional formatting we have written. Then we come over here, we click on field value. Now we go over here, we choose conditional formatting for month. Don't use the year or else it will not work. So now we have this. So if you look at this now, something weird happened. There is something we have to do. So what it is, we need to make this dynamic. Yes, this part, very dynamic. So if I start like, okay, I want to make it this way, it disappears, right? That is beautiful. But first of all, let us try to change this into a line chart. If I go to my line chart, I do this. And it works, but it looks weird. What is weird about this? Everything about it is weird. We have two lines. We are not supposed to have two lines, but that is not a problem. We can fix it, right? Let us first of all fix the extra line we have here for our custom label. Okay, fine. What I'm going to do right now is to first of all go over to the data label here. I choose the total crime and I'll turn it off. I don't want to see for that. So it's getting clear. Okay, we have line. So I'm going to go to line. If I scroll down, I have colors. So I have two colors here. If I click on this one, would that solve the problem? Changing it to white? That wouldn't solve the problem. What do? You can see stroke width. I will just, oh, everything got disappeared. What do? Okay, let us bring it back to 3. That is beautiful. Okay, now we have to change that. Let's scroll up and we have it here. It says all. So we now change the one we want to remove. We click on blank measure month. We scroll down. We can now, can you see? It's gone. Okay, what happens to the label here? The label here is at a place where we don't want it. We want the label to come below and we want to make this dynamic. I told you about dynamism, right? Let's go ahead and do it. Now click over here. Let's click over this particular blank for month. So instead of us having 200 here, we're going to use a function called the max x. So the max x function now is looking for a table. So we want to remove filter from our table. We use all function. So with the all function now, we are removing filter from the month column in the date table. We type in month, make sure it's in your date table. This is the month here. And after that, we close, we hit the comma. We now go ahead and bring in what? The expression. The expression is our total crime. So remember, the total crime is what we use inside our line chart. You must bring the exact measure you are using in your line chart. So I'm going to divide this by a number. not any number. You have to try some couple of numbers that actually matches what you want. First of all, let us do 10. Divide by 10, and now we close. If I hit my enter, let's see the behavior of this over our chart. Okay, let's wait for it. It's working on it. Okay, a bit down. I love it. It has worked, but not so well. So I'm going to change it to 20. So let's see what 20 will give us. So 20 moves it down a little bit. And this is what we're looking forward to seeing. So we have pushed it down. You can now see why I said we're going to make it dynamic. So we'll do the same thing to the year chart as well. But for now, we are done with this. And this is beautiful. Okay, this is what it is that we want. I don't want to see the title. I hate seeing title. I want to customize and put my title at a place I really cherish. All right, everyone, this is what you do to create this particular part of our dashboard. If you look at it over here, this is what we have. Just like what we have done. It's no difference. Very simple and easy. Can you see that? All right, everyone, if we look at this particular chart here, it looks some kind of ordinary. Yes, of course, it's not really complicated, but we have to do something. We have a column that actually recorded the time which every one of the crime was some kind of, being recorded at. So we want to group them. Maybe you can decide to group by 3 hours, 2 hours, 4 hours, or maybe 6 hours is all your choice. So over here now, you can see between this particular 12 a.m. to 2:59 a.m., we have 514 crime recorded. Then if we come down here, is between 6 p.m. to 59 p.m. So we have this crime recorded. You can see it now. So how do we create a group like this? Ordinarily, if we don't create a group like this, so this is what we're going to end up having. Let's take a look at how it's going to go. If I come over here now, we have this particular part that records the time of every single crime for us. So going back here now, I would prefer to add a new page. So on the new page, let's go over to our data and take the crime time. For the crime time, you can see it here. So how can we make sense with this is what we're looking forward to getting done. So now you can see. So if I try to put it on the table, it's going to be a very long table. Can you see it now? A very long table. So how can we make it some kind of much more better than this? So what we need to do right now is to create some kind of grouping. And to do that, we need to add extra column to our main data, which is this table here. So what do we do next? We create a new column. On this new column, we're going to call it time group. So for the time group, we're going to use a function called switch. So we use switch through, you know what it is, switch through here. So with the switch through, we are going to use this particular MOD function and the hour function as well. So first of all, let us pay attention to the intelligence. It's very important for we to actually know what is going on here. First, what we need to provide before this works is number. And again, we need to divide it. This is the divisor. So we're going to divide it by 24 hours, right? Before we get that. So right now, over here, is asking for the number. The number is supposed to be the column where you have your time recorded, but we're going to tell it that, okay, this is actually in hours. We use the hour function. So now for the hour function now, the hour function is looking for what? We're trying to actually convert that column into hours. We actually bring in the what? Crime time. Here's our crime time. So with our crime time here now, we close it. And if you pay attention to what we have here now, this is the divisor. So we need to actually divide it by 24, right? So now we just place a comma. So we add in here 24. So once we are done with that, we can now go ahead and have it closed. And I'll say, okay, if this we have here right now is equals to 0, and so we are supposed to copy what we have written at the left hand corner and paste it here, but because we are actually learning, we shouldn't copy that. All we have to do right now is to overdo it again, like do it this mod function, and it's asking for number. We're going to provide the hour and the crime time over here, the crime time. So now once we have the crime time here, what is next? So the next thing is for we to close, and we go by the divisor here. We divide it by 24 hours. You get it now. So we can now close it. So the first one we say, if it is actually some kind of equals, okay, I think it should be greater than or equal to. So greater than or equal to 0. And the same thing is actually going to be less than 3. So what do we want to do? We are going to group this particular time into what? Into 12 a.m. That is going to be inside double quotes. We do 12. Make sure you format it properly. This is 12 sharp. So we do a.m., 12 a.m. So we put dash between. So we do what? We do 2:59 p.m. That is almost 3, right? Oh, sorry, 2:59 a.m. as well. So we do this, 5:09. So we give a space. We still do a.m. again. So we now go ahead and close this and place a comma. So we're going to be doing this severally, and this is what we're going to be repeating. All we just have to change is where it is less than or equal to, greater than, or whatever. That is all we need to do. So all we have to do right now is just to copy this exact number and duplicate it. So now we paste it in. So there is a shortcut for way to do this. A very, instead of you to do copy and paste, you can just go ahead and use that particular shortcut to do this. So the shortcut to do this now is actually Shift Alt down. Can you see now? It's actually a quick way to actually have whatever you want to duplicate duplicated. I'm going to Ctrl Z again. So if I Ctrl Z, I want to show you again how to do it. So now place your cursor anywhere around here. Shift Alt. Can you see it now? Anywhere your cursor is will definitely work for you. You just have to learn that. Anywhere at all. It could be at the end, in the middle of it. All you have to do is to make sure you actually use Shift and the Alt key to actually get it duplicated. So we want to duplicate it into 8 places. So Shift Alt 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, and finally we have the 8th. Okay, once we have done this now, so on this particular second one here, we want to say here we are using 0, so we're going to put it 3 here, 3, and over here we're going to do 6. So here we also have if it is less than or equals to 3 here. Now that is what we do. So over here now we have to put comma over this particular place, comma. So over here we do 6. So we do 6 and we do comma. So when we do 6 now, so we now say if this one is actually greater than or equal to 3, and this particular part of the code is actually less than or equal to 6, then what we want to do right now is going to be 3 a.m. So here is going to be 3 a.m. So 3 a.m. and we come over here. So it's going to be 3 a.m. to 5:59. So we just change this 2 to 5:59. That is cool, right? Then we come over here again. Instead of us to have 0 here now, we're going to have 6 here. So it's just that we're carrying the 6 we have over here back to this particular place right now, right? Then we come over to this particular part, then we do 9. So you get it now? So we do 9. So when we do 9, this will now be 6. So this will now be 6 a.m. to what? So we have to put comma here. So 6 a.m. to 8:59. Just change this one. It's very simple. So we do 8:59. I'm going to take it very slow for you to understand exactly what is going on right here. It's very, very simple. So if I've done that now, we did 6 there. That is here. We have 0. We have 3. We have the 3 here. We have 6. We have the 6 here. Now we have 9. We're going to have the 9 over here again. You get it now? So we have the 9 over here. So when we have the 9 over there, what do? We're now going to come over here and say if this one is greater than or less than or equal to 12. Right? 12. Then what we're going to do right now, we're going to do 9 a.m. So we do 9 a.m. Let's do comma here. We do 9 a.m. to what? So we're going to be doing 9 a.m. to 11:59. 11:59. You get that? That is beautiful. So after that now, we're going to do 12 here. We do 12 over here. Then when we do 12 over there, we come over here. And what we do here now is doing 15. When we do 15, that is going to be over here, comma. So comma. So it's going to be 12 p.m. now. Instead of a.m., we do p.m. So it's going to be 12 p.m. to what? To 2:59 p.m. Okay, sorry. My caps lock is on. So 2:59 p.m. So we're going to change this one as well. 2:59 p.m. So over here, we're going to do 15. So remember, it's easy. The 15 we have here, we bring it over here again. So when we bring in 15 over there, here we're going to do 18. So we do 18 and we put our comma right here. So that's going to be 3 instead of 12. So we're going to do 3 o'clock, like 3 dots. To what? To 5:59. So we do over here, we do 5:59 p.m., not a.m. again. We take off the A and we'll put P for p.m., right? So after 15 now, we're going to do 18. So carrying off this 18 over here, we do 18. Then from 18 now, we come back right here. So what we're going to do now is for we to do 21. And over here, we do 6. So we need to put a comma over here. So we're doing 6 p.m. to what? To 8:59 p.m. So we have 8 here. So we need to format this and make sure we are using p.m. p.m. here. So we correct this. It's going to be p.m. And finally, we do p.m. for this one as well. So we do p.m. for that. Then finally here, the 21. Oh, sorry. Here was supposed to be 21, right? I didn't do that. 21. And then we have over here, we have the same 21 over here. 21. And now this is going to be 24. So which is going to give us 9 p.m. to 11:59 p.m. So if I put my comma here now, this is going to be 9 p.m. to 11:59 p.m. You get it now. is just to hit the Shift Enter key and then we close for our switch function. So before we finally go over, I can hit my Enter key right now to let's see if this is actually correct. Then I go further to explain exactly what it is that we have done right here for you guys. Okay, it seems we have an error here. And the error should be this one here. We don't have something that is going to come later. We don't need to have a comma here. So I've taken it off and I hit my Enter key. And let's see if this corrects it for us. Beautiful. We have it rightly done. So what have we done right here? Let's see what it is that we have done. Let's explain exactly what it is right here. Okay. First of all, we made use of the switch true function. What is the functionality of the switch true function? So the switch function or the switch statement evaluates conditions in order until it finds a true condition, right? So in this case, it always evaluates to true. And this particular first one needs to evaluate to what? Needs to evaluate to true. So if that is true, it's going to go ahead and like, okay, this is true. It's going to actually accord to it the hour that is peculiar to this particular time we have right here. That is how the switch function actually works. Okay, the condition we have here are based on hours. So part of our crime table, right? This here. So I went ahead and used this particular MOD, this particular function over here, and we try to actually say, okay, you know what? When you ask us for the number or value, we want to convert it using this hours here, which tells that, okay, this particular column is based on hours. And so the mod is actually a function that to ensure the MOD here is a function that ensure that the hour is written in 24-hour cycle. That is why we actually use this particular hour right here. So for each condition, so this particular switch function checks if the hours falls within a specific range that we have specified. So if it is true, it's going to assign to it a corresponding time group label, just like what we have right here right now. That is what it does. So we are trying to do 3 hours interval. You can do 2 hours interval. You can do 4 hours interval. It depends on what you really want to specify, on it. So once we have done this now, let's go back to here. And now I'm going to click over here. Okay, let's duplicate this. I'm going to move this duplicate over to this part. Let's find out what the difference is going to look like. If I now get my time and I bring in my grouped one, instead of bringing that or having that there, the grouped one here, can you see it now? The time is now grouped between 12 a.m. to 5:59 a.m. So we have 638 crimes. So you can now see what it is. All right, let's get back to our main work over here. So it is time for we to create a beautiful chart that is going to actually help us to some kind of visualize that particular, column we just added. And let's move this one up. We don't need to keep this one. So let's get a table. Or instead of a table, let's go ahead with a chart like this. So this chart is not the ideal chart to be used, but to those of you who are just coming up, I want to show you why we shouldn't use this chart and why you should use the other chart. Okay, now we go to our crime data, we locate the time group. Then we go to here, we bring in our total crimes. So we have this. So if I try to make this smaller to actually take this space now, there is no way it's going to work. What do I do? So before this can actually show up very well, I have to stretch it. Can you see? So it's going to take up a lot of space. To avoid this, what we need to do now is to flip it. But do we have to flip this? You call it flipping as if you're going to flip it. No. Let us change the chart type to something like this. We are going to use this very chart called clustered bar chart. It's an ideal chart to be used. So we have something like this. So when I even try to some kind of make it small, can you see this particular part here, the group the time group is some kind of distorted. That is not cool at all. What do we do? There is a solution for that. So let me just first of all show everything. So our time is not showing up. We go over here. Now we click on X axis here. We go over to this title. We turn it off. Then totally we turn the value off. Now to the Y axis, we turn off the title of the Y axis. That makes it a bit better, but it's not even some kind of visible, right? Okay, what do? Do we have to turn off the value? No, that is not the ideal. So what we are going to do right now, you can see where it says maximum width. The maximum width is something you have to work on, this maximum width. So we have to push this slide to this part here, to the end. That is what we need to do. So what am I going to do? I'm going to have to some kind of move it. Can you see it now? It shows up very well. So which means when I will try to some kind of make this smaller, before it gets started, you must have done it, in a way you're not supposed to. So why would you have to do that? So let's do this. All right, this is nice. I love this. I can bring this over here now. Can you see? It takes this space and I love it. But I don't have to show my label, of course. So sorry, my title. I have to turn it off. We're going to create ours later after the day. So we have this and it's taking shape. We're about to create a very beautiful report or dashboard. Depends on what you want to call it. All right. I want you to cast your focus over this particular middle part here. You get it? So if you cast your focus over there, what do you see? You see something very simple and easy, but do you know how to do it? If you don't know how to do it, just wait and let me show you. Okay, first of all, what are we trying to portray over here? So we're trying to see the crime over the weekday and as well the month. So this chart above here, this very one here that has label on it, is actually showing month. So it's showing month, while this particular one over here is actually showing the, should I call it trend of what? Of the weekday. That is what it is that is showing. So this particular one in the middle, this one here, these boxes, so we call them heat map, or we call it heat map. So it's cool. So let's see clearly what is going on here. If you look at this particular month here, this month has the highest crime ever. So we can see the week it falls to. It falls to Sunday here. It falls to Monday. Monday has the highest one as well. So if we come down here, Friday has another record of high crime. So if you come over here now, you can see the week is Sunday. You can see the number. You can see this one. You can see Friday here as well. So not that other weekday did not contribute or other month did not contribute, but those are the very month and the very weekdays that crime is at a very high rate. You understand? So what helps us to see and understand all of this is the way we actually presented the data. So it's very easy for you to use your eye to look at this box here. So you use your eye to look at this very box here, this one here, this, and make conclusion. I'm like, okay, this is the month. So if we did not add something like this, we added this particular part of it to actually support us reading what is going on. All of that. So you want to know how to create this? Let's find out quickly. All right, we are back here. The very first thing we're going to do now is to actually add this particular metrics. I've done this in my previous class. It's very simple and easy. It's not something complicated. So you don't think of how am I going to do this? So adjust it to your satisfaction. So I'm going to go with this. So once I have this, the very first thing I'm going to put right now is actually adding my month and as well adding my weekday. Very, very important. How do we do that? So let us open here. So once we have here on the row, what goes to the row is actually the weekday. But excuse me, do we have the weekday? Let's verify. Over here, we do not have the weekday. So which means we have to add a new column to our date table. Let's get it. So get to the data view and quickly let's locate our date table. So inside our date table, I'm going to add a comma here, and I'm going to add here weekday. So put a comma. So use the format function, and we bring in the dates. So here's our date column, comma, and we do D for the short format. Then we close. So we're going to add one more column. This column is going to actually add week number for us, for we to sort it. If you look at the behavior for a month, something crazy happened. So it was not sorted the way it should be. So we might end up having Friday to be the start of the week, or even Monday. But how crazy is that? Let's do it. So we can do week num for week number. We close, and we use the weekday function here. So weekday function. So we bring in our date, and quickly we close, and just hit the enter key. All right, we have both of them right now. The next thing we have to do is to make sure we sort this particular column. To sort it now, we come over here, make sure you are on column tools, and come over here and click on sort by week number. So it has been sorted for us. We have to go all the way back to data view. Here we are. And now we bring in to the row, open up this, and weekday. Beautiful, we have it here. The next one is to the column. We bring in month. So you have something like this. So to the value area, what do we bring in? We bring in the total crimes that we have. This is it. So quickly, we have to do some formatting. The first formatting we want to do is to remove all the totals. So we are left with this. So we can go to the value now and increase the value, or we can change the font type here to something like this, more bold. But we have to concern ourselves about the font of these particular values because we're not even trying to show the values. Okay, but one thing I love to do is just to increase this. So increasing this helps me to some kind of expand or stretch the boxes, right? So I can put it on 14, for example. Let's do 14, but mind you, we are not going to use it. Okay, the next thing we do is to go over and some kind of adjust the header. So we can see the column header. So in the column header, let's use this. So on the row header here, let's do the same thing to the row header. So look at this, would show very well. Now, if you now look at it now, we don't want to show our weekday. How do we get off our weekday? There is not a place here under the format to turn the weekday off. What can we do? Very simple. Come over here and double click and just put a dot. Then hit the enter key. That gets off the weekday for you. That is the only trick you can do. That doesn't change your main column name. Your column name remains what it is, but over here, we decide to get it off by putting dot right there. You get it now. So once we have gotten this done, what is next? It is time for we to affect the color we have right here. What do we do? Okay, before we affect the color, there is something I want you to know. I have been showing this over and over again to all my subscribers, and I have to show it to you again. That is you trying to understand the kind of color you should use. If you have problem with colors, so all you need to do is to actually look for a site that can guide you through. I'm going to use Adobe Color, Adobe.color here. So you can see here, color.adobe.com. So click on it. So we can go over here and get any color of our choice that we're cool with. But I have the color I want to use in mind. I just want to show you how to get this done on your own personal project. It's very, very important. So once you are here, click on the Explore. So under Explore, you're going to see those colors here. Those are the default colors Adobe will just show you. So the next thing you have to do right now is to come over here to type any color you have in mind. Let's say you want to use something like blue and put comma red. So those two colors, when you hit them up, what the site is going to do for you is to actually mix other colors that correlate with it. Can you see it now? So we might want to go with something like this, or still when we go down, we can look at different colors that are available that we can choose from. So can you look at it? Let's go with this one here. So do you look at this now? All of those colors we have right here right now, they all go together, but you don't have to use all of them. Just pick the actual one you want and disappear. So if I were you now, I might choose this particular color, go for this, 3 colors. I'll run away. I'm just kidding. Okay. Well, you have this, right? So just make use of this, but I'm going to give you the color to use if you need that. So we are back right here. The next thing we're going to do right now is for you to come here and go to Cell Element. Then you click on it. Quickly, you scroll down and you have this particular font color. When you click on it, this is what you have, right? All right. We want to customize this based on our own way of, whatever. So I'm going to click on this particular FX here. And once I've done that, I'll come under the high value here. I'll click and I'll click on more. So I told you I have my color already. So my color code is going to be something you can type in DF47, 47 and 6E. Okay, 5. Let's do 5E. So this is the kind of red color I want. So once you have gotten this done, the next thing you have to do right now is to actually get the color for the low part of it. So for the low value, we come over here. We can now do what? We can now do 6, 7, A1, AE. So we have this. You can copy it in case you want to use it again. Not even in case, we're going to use it. I'm going to click on OK. So this is what I have right now. It's not beautiful. What do? We come down to what? We come down to our font color. So once we get to our font color, what do? We have to make sure we change our font color to the same color we have used for the background. So we click on the FX, right? So once we click on the FX over here, we just need to paste in the one we've copied before. This is the same color. So we come over here now. We need to actually give it the actual color for the red. So I'm going to use D what? DF475. Then E. Then make sure it's the actual one. Otherwise, your figures will show up. Go ahead and click on OK. So do you look at it now? We make it disappear. This is exactly what we want. So let's go to the top. So here we have the grid line. So we can turn it on. So that, open up it again. So leave it at 1. For this color, let's leave it at this color for now. We're going to change the color later after all. Then once we have done this, so now we come to the value. Let's put the value at 13. This is actually nice. So, okay, 14 is still cool. Let's do 14. So once we have done this now, we can now do this. Okay, we can move it down for the time being. We're going to make adjustment after all, but right now we are cool with this. So let us go for this particular, closed chart bar chart here. So we get it. And quickly we bring in our months. So our value here, we go to the date table. So we bring in the month. So once we have the month over here, we can make it this way. So quickly, let's go over here now. And all we have to do is just to make sure we go over to the X and the value, we want to turn it off. We don't want it. So we go over to the Y. So we want to turn off the title and the y axis. We turn on everything off. We have this. So we can make it a bit smaller and make sure you resize it to actually match exactly what you have here. So for the x-axis, we have not turned off the title. Yeah, sure. Now it's turned off. Can you look at it now? So you want to make sure you stretch it until you have something that looks just like what you're looking for, what it's saying. So for this one here, we'll bring it down a bit. So let's go. So if I hover over here, I should be seeing October. If I hover over here, I should be seeing January. So make sure you set it that way. You get it now. So we need to add one more. All I have to do is just to get this one, copy and paste. So I'm going to change it to this particular clustered bar chart. So we have this. I'm going to stretch it. So once I've stretched it, I'm going to come over here and change from month to weekday. So we have this, right? So all I have to do is just to, oh, sorry. I targeted the wrong place. So we just make it this way. So stretch it a little bit to fit and stretch this particular one to match this. Okay, so we can just do this. So once we are done with this now, the next thing is for we to do the same thing we have done for our colors. Very, very important. So we need to change the colors we have right here to match the color we need to use, right? So it's going to match the main color of our dashboard. So what do? We click over to the what? To the bar, and we choose the FX. Then quickly we go to the highest value. So we click here. We want to make sure we are using the same color. Don't forget it. I have what? I have D of what? The F475, 475 and E. This is the color. Very important. You should know that. So we just want to give this one the actual color that is peculiar to it. So we're going to use the same color we have used previously, and that is going to be 67A1AE. This is what it is, right? Then we close. That gives you this, right? So over here, I might want to have, middle color just to make sure things becomes cool right here. So all I just have to do right now, you don't have to remove it. Click back on it and add this middle color. And for the middle color, you choose the same thing again. So we're going to go with what? 67A1AE again, same color. Now that reduces the for me. Okay, once I've done this now, the next thing I'm going to do is to go over to legend and turn off the legend, and I have it right. So let's click on this one and quickly go over here now, and we do the same thing, choose the same color. Then we go over to this one and choose more color. So we do 67A1AE again. Then we have this done. Then if I click on this now, so we're going to have something like this. So if we're looking forward to mark just one aspect of it, all we have to do is to actually make sure we use a middle point to do that. And I want to use the middle point just like this one here. So do this and come over here and do 67A1AE, the same color. Then you go ahead and do this. So I'm just marking what? I'm just marking the actual highest point. This is the one here. And over here, I'm going to come and turn off the legend. And I have something as beautiful as this. This is what we have done to have something like this created. And you have just seen it. Can you just see that we have just replicated what we have here? And beautiful. It works. So we are almost there. We have one more chart to create. And that is going to be this one. And we get into this one and show you how to get this one done. In case you're like, how did you do this? It's very simple and easy. I'm going to show you how to get this particular paper, a tiered paper, kind of this into Power BI. But it's very simple. Let's do it.